You keep waking up in the middle of the night, sometimes once, sometimes multiple times. Some nights you fall back asleep quickly, other nights it takes you hours just to fall back asleep. Regardless, it's frustrating and you don't want to deal with it anymore. And besides being annoying, it's affecting your sleep, your energy, your focus to the point where it's interfering with your quality of life and your business. And instead of wasting time trying to figure this out on your own, I want to give you a 4-step framework to stop waking up in the middle of the night. Now, before we get started, I want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Trevor, and I help scaling entrepreneurs achieve consistent, high-quality sleep. Now, I want to dive straight into it, but before we talk about how to stop waking up in the middle of the night, I want to make this quick point. Nightly wake-ups are only a problem if you care. In fact, waking up in the middle of the night is completely normal. It's programmed into our biology. And we wake up throughout the night to make sure there are no threats in our surrounding environment. And most people wake up 5 to 15 times per hour while they sleep. And these are known as microarousals. And the only difference between a microarousal and the wake-ups that you're currently having is that you're conscious of them. And because you're conscious of these wake-ups, you start to label them as a problem. But the wake-ups are only really a problem if they're destroying your sleep, disrupting your energy, interfering with your business. But if you're waking up throughout the night, maybe once or twice, you're falling back asleep quickly, you're waking up the next morning feeling refreshed, and you have good energy throughout the day, are these wake-ups really a problem, or have you made them a problem? Now, if you're sitting there saying, Trevor, these wake-ups are just destroying me, man, and I want to fix them, then keep watching the video. So why are you actually waking up throughout the night? And the most likely culprit are cortisol spikes. Entrepreneurs, they blame a lot for their wake-ups. They think it's the room is too hot, their mind won't stop racing, their partner keeps waking them up, they eat food too late, they sleep on an uncomfortable pillow, and these can absolutely be contributors, but they're usually not the root cause. And most of the time, the actual reason you are waking up in the middle of the night is because your body is sending a cortisol spike. And it's spiking your cortisol because it believes it's in danger. Now, some examples of this. Let's say you have sleep apnea. And when you have sleep apnea, you have apnea events throughout the night, points where you're not breathing. And when you're not breathing, you're obviously dying. You're in danger. So your body spikes your cortisol to wake you up so you can breathe again, so you're safe again. The same thing happens with an overactive nervous system where you go to bed in a more sympathetic state, in that fight or flight state. So you're going to be more alert and sensitive to your external surroundings because your body's scanning for threats. It's trying to protect you. So when a loud noise goes off or the room is too hot or you get the urge to pee, your body is going to send a cortisol spike to wake you up because it thinks it's in danger. The same thing happens with insomnia. And so while these can absolutely be contributors, they're not the root cause. The root cause of why you're waking up are cortisol spikes. But now the question is, what's actually causing those cortisol spikes? So what's causing your body to spike your cortisol in the middle of the night? And one root cause that a lot of people do not think of is a sleep disorder. And when you think of wake-ups, sleep disorders probably don't come to mind. Yet sleep disorders are one of the leading causes for why you wake up in the middle of the night. And not only do most people not connect the dots between a sleep disorder and your nightly wake-ups, most people don't even know they have a sleep disorder. And some studies, like this one, have estimated that up to 90% of people who have sleep apnea don't know they have it. So don't be so quick to rule out the fact that you might have a sleep disorder and it might be contributing to your nightly wake-ups. Now, to drive this point home, I want to quickly mention a study led by Barry Krakow. And what researchers did was they had 20 participants take an overnight sleep lab study. And these participants had never seen a sleep specialist before. And what they found was 90% of these participants' awakenings were caused by a sleep disorder. Yet when researchers asked these participants, hey, why do you think you're waking up throughout the night? None of them thought it was a sleep disorder. And again, this is to highlight the fact that you shouldn't rule out a sleep disorder so quickly. It could very well be the cause of why you're waking up in the middle of the night. Now, the next reason you're waking up throughout the night is because you're always on and can't shut off. You have an overactive nervous system. And this is so typical from entrepreneurs because they're always doing something. From the moment they wake up to right before bed, they are stimulating themselves. They do work. then they take calls, then they learn about business, then they do light work, then they go socialize, then they scroll on their phone, watch TV, and then they go to bed. They don't actually take the time to shut off and recover. They don't take the time to switch into that parasympathetic state. And they've trained their nervous system to overreact to daily stressors, like arguing with a partner, getting stuck in a traffic jam, having an employee screw up in the business. And this just leads to unnecessary cortisol spikes that are adding to your overall load. And the same thing goes with underlying health issues like gut health issues, blood sugar dysregulation, having mold or heavy metal exposure, or even hidden diseases. These are all just adding fuel to the fire. And this is why your body's chronically stuck in this sympathetic state, that fight or flight state. And this leads your body to constantly be scanning for threats to make sure there's no danger in its surrounding environment. So things like a full bladder, a small noise, or slight temperature change that were once ignored while you sleep, they now wake you up throughout the night. And because, again, you're in this sympathetic state, your body's going to be more sensitive to external factors, again, like a noise, and internal sensations like the urge to pee. And this is why you are waking up throughout the night. Now, the next reason you're waking up in the middle of the night is because your brain has been programmed to do so. And you've probably noticed you wake up at around the same time every night. And this is by no accident. Your body has been conditioned to wake up. It's like an appointment has been made in your internal clock or your circadian rhythm, and it repeats daily. And this appointment was created by two actions. Firstly, you saw the time when you woke up. And secondly, you had an emotional reaction to that wake up. You were fearful, you were anxious, you were frustrated and angry. So now every day, the body anticipates that wake up because it worries that if it misses it, then the body will be in danger. So it wakes you up to survive. You've conditioned your body to believe that there is a threat when you wake up. So every day it anticipates the wake up to make sure there's no threat. And this is largely due to the emotion that you've attached to this wake up. Now, these next set of habits probably aren't the main problem, but they can certainly contribute to your nightly wake ups. And the first category of habits are your sleep environment. And if your sleep environment is off, your body looks for an excuse to wake up. If the bedroom is too warm, too noisy, too bright, you have a partner, a pet, or a kid that's disturbing your sleep, you use the bedroom for anything else other than sleep and sex. This is all an excuse for your body to wake up. And again, like we talked about in the previous sections, if you have an overactive nervous system, if you're dealing with insomnia, your body's actively scanning for threats in the middle of the night. So it's going to be sensitive to any unoptimal sleep environment triggers like the bedroom being too warm or too noisy. So you really want to dial that in. Next, if your circadian rhythm is unaligned, it's going to confuse the body about what time of day it is. If you're not getting morning sunlight, you have an inconsistent wake time, and you're using bright lights at night, your body is going to be more confused about what time of day it is, and that's going to increase the chances of it waking up. It's going to have a harder time turning on those sleep promoting systems that help us sleep through the night. And if you're making lifestyle mistakes like eating late night meals, incorrect caffeine timing, and using drugs like marijuana and alcohol too close to bed, you are only adding to the problem. And when you resist your natural sleep pressure, this natural buildup that makes us feel sleepy by spending too much time in bed and going to bed when you're not actually tired, and instead watching the clock, waiting for your body to get tired, hoping you can fall back asleep in the middle of the night, you are only fighting yourself. And while these habits are not make or break, you can certainly get some relief by implementing them correctly. All right, now it's time to talk about the solution. And the first step is to rule out a sleep disorder. Now, if you fall back asleep quickly after waking up in the middle of the night, or you're sleepy throughout the day, and what I mean by that is, if given the opportunity to take a nap throughout the day, if you fall asleep like that, that could point to a sleep disorder. Now, if you're also snoring, gasping for air when right before you wake up, or your partner notices it, or you have morning headaches, dry mouth, you wake up to pee a lot in the middle of the night, these are all signs of sleep apnea. And if any of these sound like you should probably get a sleep study. Now, an in-lab sleep study is going to be a lot more accurate. It can detect all severities of sleep apnea and all types of sleep disorders, but it's going to be less convenient. You're going to have to sleep in a sleep lab. Now, at home sleep study is quite the opposite. It's very convenient. It's simple to set up and easy to do. And the only caveat to it is that it's less accurate. It's only really good for detecting moderate and severe forms of sleep apnea. Now, if it's a sleep disorder, then fix it, because that's probably the main cause of your wake ups. Now, there are a couple ways to handle a sleep disorder, and I'm going to talk about this in the context of sleep apnea. And I want to just make this clear. You should always consult your doctor before doing anything in regards to a sleep disorder. Now, the first type of solution is a medical solution, and these provide instant relief, but don't always solve the root cause. These are things like surgery, a CPAP, a mandibular device, Excitus OSA, which is something I personally use. It stimulates the tongue so it doesn't block your airways. And there are other exciting solutions that are coming to the market, so definitely be on the lookout. Now, the next category of solutions are natural solutions, and these usually solve the root cause, but they just take more time to work. These are things like breathing exercises, myofunctional work, or losing weight. These are all long-term fixes, but they just take a little more effort to actually see results. The next solution is to recover. And without proper recovery, entrepreneurs are asking to wake up in the middle of the night. Like we talked about, when your body is stuck in that sympathetic state, that fight or flight state, it's going to be more sensitive to external factors like bright lights or loud noises, and internal sensations like the urge to pee or an upset stomach. And this is going to increase the likelihood that you wake up throughout the night. And if you struggle to fall back asleep after waking up, it can definitely point to a stress management issue, where again, your body's stuck in that fight or flight state. Now, there are 3 ways to tackle this issue. Firstly is a wind down routine. And a wind down routine helps you switch out of work mode into rest mode. It helps you switch out of that sympathetic state into that parasympathetic state before bed. And in order to implement a wind down routine, what you can do is incorporate relaxing activities 1 to 2 hours before bed. So things like a hot bath, listening to relaxing music, doing breath work before bed, and maybe even some reading or journaling. It all just depends how your nervous system responds. And I have a video on my channel that goes into depth about how to implement a wind down routine, so make sure to check it out. Next, we can implement micro breaks, and micro breaks are 5 to 15 minute breaks that we take throughout the day. And these help us to prevent our stress levels from getting too high. Now, in order for these breaks to be effective, they cannot just feel good. And a lot of entrepreneurs, they believe if it feels good, it must help me recover. But that's usually not the case. It actually needs to help shift our nervous system from that fight or flight state, that sympathetic state, into that rest or digest state, that parasympathetic state, in order for the breaks to actually be effective. And lastly, we want to eliminate or reduce any unnecessary stressors that are adding to your overall load. Now, these are things like gut issues, excessive fasting, doing too much intense exercise, you're eating inflammatory foods, maybe you're being exposed to heavy metals or mold, or you're consuming drugs too frequently. These all can contribute to your nervous system being stuck in that sympathetic state. And the more time that you do spend in this parasympathetic state, the less likely you are to wake up in the middle of the night. Now, it might take some time to fully heal your nervous system, but by implementing these practices, you can take a step in the right direction. Next, we want to grab this low-hanging fruit. We want to improve our sleep habits because it's simple. And although improving these habits probably isn't the main fix, it can help us reduce the chance that we wake up throughout the night. Now, these are the core categories we can work on. Firstly, we want to align our circadian rhythm to better signal to our body that it is nighttime. And when we signal to our body that it is nighttime, our body is going to turn on these sleep promoting systems that help us sleep through the nights. In order to do this, you want to get 5 to 10 minutes of morning sunlight. Now, if it's cloudy, bump that up to 10 to 30 minutes. After that, you want to have a consistent wake time. You want to wake up at around the same time every single day. Now, you can be off by 30 or even 60 minutes, but try to stay consistent even on the weekends. Next, you're going to want to avoid bright light 1 to 2 hours before bed. In order to do this, you want to dim the lights around your house or wear blue light blocking glasses. Next, we want to optimize our sleep environment to reduce the chance we are woken up by external factors. Firstly, you want to keep our environment cold between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. You're going to want to avoid large blankets or wearing too much clothing to bed. And to cool down your room, you can turn on the AC or open up a window. Next, you want to keep your bedroom quiet. You can wear earplugs or turn on a white noise machine. And finally, you want to keep your bedroom dark. And to do this, you can put up blackout curtains or wear an eye mask. Next, we want to time our lifestyle factors correctly so they don't disrupt our sleep systems. First, you're going to want to avoid caffeine 10 to 12 hours before bed. Next, you're going to want to avoid consuming drugs like marijuana or alcohol at least 3 hours before bed. And finally, you want to avoid intense exercise or heavy meals 2 to 3 hours before bed. Now, if all else fails, you want to reprogram the mind. If you've tried all these solutions, you've ruled out a sleep disorder, you've prioritized recovery, you've improved your sleep habits, but you're still waking up in the middle of the night, then you might have insomnia. Now, it's good to try all of those habits before you go into insomnia treatment because it can take a while and it just makes insomnia treatment easier knowing you've tried everything. Now, we want to fix the root cause, which is the mind. And there's a couple of habits that are prevalent in insomnia treatment that we can leverage. Firstly, you want to stop checking the time after you've gone to bed. If you wake up in the middle of the night, do not check the time. And if you have the urge to check the time, just tell yourself, my alarm hasn't gone off. It's not time to wake up. I'm going back to bed. Next, you want to stop forcing yourself to go to bed when you're not tired. Instead, you want to go to bed when you feel tired. And if that means that you need to stay up for another hour past your bedtime, so be it. Because in that hour, you're going to build more sleep pressure, and that's going to increase the chance that you don't wake up throughout the night. Next, you want to reduce the amount of time you're spending in bed. If you're spending 10 hours every night in bed, two things are probably happening. One, you're probably exceeding your natural sleep need, and this is causing you to wake up and spend more time awake throughout the night. And number two, you're not actually building up enough sleep pressure before getting into bed. And again, like we talked about, if we have enough sleep pressure built up, then it's going to help us sleep throughout the night and not need to wake up in the middle of the night. Finally, we want to accept the wake ups for what they are. Now, this is probably one of the hardest habits to implement, but it's also the most effective because we remove the emotional attachment to the wake ups. We remove that cue that has been placed in our circadian rhythm that's telling our body to wake us up at that time every night. And when we show our brain that there is no threat, we start to sleep peacefully again. We can show our brain that the wake ups actually aren't after us. They're not trying to kill us. Then our brain will no longer spike our cortisol and wake us up in the middle of the night. It will realize the wake ups are normal and there was nothing to worry about in the first place. Now, if you are still struggling with insomnia, looking into a CBTI program or an ACTI program can help you get the rest of the way there. And there are a ton of programs and practitioners out there who can help you on your insomnia journey. Now, transparently, it could take some time to implement these solutions, but it's well worth it. So you can consistently sleep through the night, get back to your optimal energy, mood, and performance instead of continually waking up throughout the night, waking up unrefreshed in the morning, having low energy throughout the day, and just not performing at your max potential for your business, your family, and yourself. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below. And if you'd like to work with me in a one-to-one format, check the first link in the description.